Let's break down active rotation from the hip. We are going to be doing this via hip capsule cars, and I'm going to show you 3 different variations for achieving the same goal, which is to rotate the femur on its axis. These can be used for movement prep, for assessing, for training hip rotation, for learning about how to isolate hip rotation, so you can really understand a little bit more about the mobility and the rotation from your hips. So the training side of it, it's really going to depend on how much tension or effort you put into it. So if you use high amounts of effort, we're going to be actively trying to increase these ranges of motion. If we put in a little bit of effort, we're going to be on more of the rehab learning side of things, where we're going to be able to hold those articulations a little bit longer, but hopefully learn a little bit more about them. You always want to be comparing one side to the other. Does one side feel easier than the other? Is one side a little bit more challenging to isolate than the other? Do you notice a difference between internal and external rotation on one side of your body? All of these things you want to keep in mind as you're moving, just to continuously learn more about your body and about the way that you move. So let's get started. Our first variation is on the floor, but once we get to standing up, you're going to want some dowels or stick mobility sticks nearby. We're going to be using those as targets and feedback for that movement. So we'll start with the most regressed version. The simple goal for all of these, like I already mentioned, is to rotate the hip on its axis, or to rotate the thigh, the femur bone, on its axis. So what we want to avoid across the board for these is moving the leg side to side as we rotate from the hip, hiking one hip or the other as we rotate, leaning away from that leg, and moving the torso all around. So we want to keep the torso nice and still and stable. We want to keep those hips nice and still, and we want to keep the legs still. Like I said, it's rotating on its axis like a rotisserie. So let's get started with our short stick lying on your back. You can also be pressing your hand into the thigh, so I'll show that variation as well if you don't have the sticks. So we'll start with the right leg first. You want to make sure that you can lie flat and that you've got the left leg extended and that the left knee is not bent, right? That the left hip is not tilted one way or the other. We're going to drive that left heel down into the floor, and then the right leg is going to lift up at 90 degrees. So we want to make sure that the right thigh is not too close to the chest or too far away. If you're feeling lower back pain, then you can pull the leg a little bit closer to your chest so that we can get a little bit more abdominals engaged here. But we want that knee bent at 90 degrees. We don't want that foot up too high or too low here. We want it to be straight out from that knee. And then we want that foot to be flexed as well. So we'll keep an active ankle. You may feel some tension and this front muscle of the shin, the anterior tibialis, working here while you're keeping that foot flexed. So we drive the left heel down, keep that 90-degree angle. If you don't have a stick, you can press one or both hands. I would advise not using the left because it tends to pull the knee across, but you can press both hands into the thigh here. We want the knee right on top of the hip, and most people are going to automatically pull that across the center of your body, but we want it right on top. You can think about pulling the back of that right hip down into the floor, and hopefully that will keep the abdominals engaged, but also open up the back side, the posterior side of the hip, so that we can allow for a little bit more hip internal rotation. We don't want to be too closed off here in the core. So we're either pressing our hand into that thigh, or you can take your stick and push it into that thigh as well. Regardless, we want some tension here. So I want some tension with the leg pushing into the hand or the stick, and I want the hand or the stick to also give tension back to the leg. That's going to engage the abdominals even more, which stabilizes the spine, which means that we are at much smaller risk of moving that spine all around to achieve the rotation from the hip. So I've got my position here, pushing that stick into the leg back into the stick. I've got some abdominal engagement. I'm dropping that right hip down into the floor, thighs right on top of the hip, and then we're going to sweep the right foot outside of the body. So you're keeping contact with the stick or your hand. And with the stick, it's a little bit easier not to slide that leg over because you'll really feel it. But you want to make sure once you're in internal rotation that the knee is right on top of the hip. Then we're going to come back center, and then we'll switch over to external rotation. Same thing. So you want to make sure that the leg is not sliding across the stick or pulling your hand out to the side as we slide over to external rotation. So you may be wondering what makes this internal or external rotation, or how do you know? Because when you're sweeping the leg inside the body, it feels like it should be called internal rotation, right? But it's not. So if you have a thumbs up on the top of your thigh, okay, which is what we're rotating, right? We're rotating the thigh from the hip. If you take your thumbs up and you turn the thumbs up in towards the center of your body, you're in internal rotation. If you take the thumbs up and you turn it out towards the outside of your body, you're in external rotation. Okay, so you can come down and take a rest, and then we're gonna do all of that again. We're gonna do 3 more in a row. Make sure that the left leg is driving down into the floor, and as you're rotating, make sure that this leg is not rotating with you. So you want the toes turned up straight towards the ceiling, and we want that leg to stay active so that we are not moving that left hip with the right leg. So let's reset. Left leg is driving down. We got that right knee right on top of that right hip. Back of that right hip is pressing down into the floor. We've got flexed foot, 90-degree angle at the knee. We're gonna push the hand and or the stick into the thigh. So we've got that tension there. We're gonna slide out again to internal rotation. Okay, so the foot is going outside the body, making sure that the knee is not crossing to the midline. Then we're gonna come back center and go out to external rotation. Foot is gonna slide inside of the body, back of that right hip is still attached to the floor, and we'll come back center. Let's do that 2 more times. So again, all of this is active range of motion. So we can do this first thing in the morning just to assess how that hip is rotating and moving. And back to external, if you're doing this as part of your training, you're gonna use a little bit more tension on that leg and stick and push a little bit harder for those rotations so that we are actively increasing this range of motion. We'll go to internal rotation one last time. We wanna make sure we're holding each of these, not just swinging the leg side to side. No momentum being used for these rotations. Double check with that knee, make sure it's on top of the hip. Come back center and rest. Now we can switch sides. We're gonna go to that left leg, same exact thing. We could do 4 in a row right away without taking that rest. Let's set it up. Right leg is gonna drive into the floor. Left leg is right on top of that left hip. Knee is bent at 90 degrees, foot is flexed. Okay, we've got that back of that left hip pressing down into the floor. Rib cage is down, try not to overarch that spine. Once again, if you're feeling low back pain or tightness here, you can pull the leg a little bit closer to your chest. That may help. So now let's add tension to this movement. That's gonna help isolate that rotation from the hip and make sure that your thigh is rotating on its axis. Let's sweep over to internal rotation. Once again, if I have a thumbs up on the top of my thigh, I'm turning that thumbs up in towards the center of my body for that internal rotation. Then let's sweep back center and go out to external rotation. So now the foot is sweeping across the body and the top of the thigh is turning out. Come back center, let's do that again. See if you can increase the tension from the stick to the leg with each rep. So I've got a little more tension going into this next rep, seeing if that affects my range of motion. If I use a little more tension, can I get further into these articulations of the hip? Come back center, let's do that 2 more times. Maybe try even a little bit more tension this time. So here with this internal, you'll feel the outside part of that hip working. And then we'll come back center over to external. Now you may feel the inner thigh working. You may also feel a stretch on the outer part of the hip here. And then let's do that 1 more time. Double check and make sure that knee is not sliding out or in towards the midline as you rotate here. Thigh is rotating right on its axis. And last one over to external. Come back center and rest. So let's make our way up to standing. You may feel some activation or tightness in the front part of the hips. You may feel those abdominals engaged. You may feel the outer part of that hip really fatigued already. So if you want to stick to that progression, go ahead and stick to it. If you're ready to progress to the next movement, then follow along with this one. So now we're doing this standing up. So the main difference between this one and the one lying down is that you're not going to get the floor to stabilize this supporting leg and the spine. So now it's up to you to stabilize this supporting leg and the spine, which primarily just means that you want to try to keep those nice and still for this progression. So we're using both long sticks for this one. We're gonna start in a tall standing position. Now the left stick is gonna go at 12 o'clock, just in front of your nose, but out in front of you 6 to 12 inches. Now your right leg is gonna slide up to that 90-degree position, and notice how if it's not touching, you wanna touch and attach that stick to the inside of that right thigh. Okay, so you don't want it to attach to the knee, you want it right in the middle of that thigh here. You want to, once again, find that tension between the stick and the leg. So we're not just gonna tap the stick, we're gonna find some tension pushing the leg into the stick and sticking back into the leg, making sure that that right knee is right in front of the right hip. And then we're also gonna make sure that the bottom knee is not bent and that we're not leaning away from the leg. If you are leaning or bending that bottom knee, then I would slide that leg down a little bit so that you can stand nice and tall, and then we can rotate the leg from there. So the goal is the same. Once again, we're rotating the thigh on its axis. So once we're here in this position, we've got that tension on the thigh and the stick. We're going to slide out to internal rotation. Now with this one, we're gonna start to bring in some elements of stick taps, which are rotating your foot and your leg to a target. So now we're gonna try to tap the opposite stick with that foot. So once I'm positioned here, you're gonna internally rotate and try to bring that stick to the foot so you're tapping it. Make sure that the knee is right in front of the hip, and then bring that leg back center. You don't have to go to external. Now we're gonna do that again. Sliding that foot out to the stick. If you can rotate a little further, you can move that stick a little further out. Just make sure that this leg doesn't detach from the stick. And then come back center. Let's do that one more time. Rotate and tap the stick. And then come back center and rest. Now memorize where that stick is. That's your internal rotation for the right leg. Now let's do the same with external rotation for the right leg. So I've memorized that position. You could even put something there to mark it, right? Let's switch to external rotation. So you're just going to take the stick that you had in your right hand, you're gonna move it to the opposite side. And we're going to slide the right leg up so the stick is still on the inside of that right leg. Now we're going to rotate externally and try to tap that right leg to the left stick. Come back center. So the stick is really blocking that thigh from moving in or out. So we're able to find out where we can rotate without having to really focus on keeping that thigh still for now. Let's do that one more time. Rotate to external. If you can rotate a little further, move that stick. And then come back center. Now keep this stick that's in your left hand right there. That's where we're gonna rotate externally. Move that opposite stick to where you had your external rotation or your internal rotation. Okay, so now our sticks are set up for stick taps. So we can drive those sticks into the ground. We're holding them at about chest height. And you're going to lift the right leg. Now, the challenge with this last variation is that you are in charge of now not letting that knee move side to side. And we know that the placement of these sticks is in the right position that we're gonna be able to tap the sticks without moving that right thigh all over the place. So let's give it a try. You can, of course, adjust as if you need to, if they're in slightly the wrong position, but hopefully we're close. So we got that right leg up, driving those sticks into the ground. So now that's your initiation of tension in the abdominals and the front of that hip. Watch the right thigh as you sweep the right foot out towards the right stick. Keep the knee right in front of the hip. Come back center. Now let's sweep the foot across to external rotation, keeping that knee right in front of the hip. Come back center. Let's do that two more times. Internally rotate, sweeping that right foot out towards the right stick. Come back center. And external rotation. Okay, this is our more advanced version of these stick taps. So we're really challenging that thigh to rotate on its axis. We're forcing that right hip to isolate this rotation. Let's go back to external one more time. Keep driving those sticks into the floor. Find that rotation. Come back center and rest. Nice. So let's try that on the left side. Okay, so now we're going to go through the same progressions, marking our place for the internal, external rotation wherever we need those sticks. So we're placing one stick right in front of your nose at 12 o'clock, just about 6 inches away from you. We're going to drive that stick into the floor, lift that left leg up, and we're just going to make sure that that's in the right position so that the left knee is right in front of the left hip or slightly below, but not in or outside, right? Then we're going to move that left stick out to the side, and we're going to figure out where we need that stick to be for our internal rotation. So I'm going to rotate that left thigh, pressing that stick into the thigh so that I know that I'm not moving that leg all around, and then bring it back center. We'll do that 2 more times. Adjust if you need, so you can move that stick out a little bit or in, keeping that tension on the stick with that thigh, keeping that bottom leg nice and straight. Come back center. And let's do that 1 more time. Find that internal rotation. Hold. Come back center. And rest. So now memorize where that left stick was. Okay, memorize it. Now we're going to take that stick in the right hand to mark our external rotation. So we'll bring that left leg up again, finding that tension on the stick in the thigh, and we'll slide that stick towards 1 o'clock to start. Keep that tension as we externally rotate, keeping that thigh rotating right on its axis. Adjust that stick as necessary. Keep that bottom knee nice and straight. Come back center. Let's do that 2 more times. Rotate. And come back center. You will definitely feel the standing legs start to fatigue as well. So if you're feeling those glutes, you are definitely doing it right. 1 more time, find that external. Keep that thigh pressing into that stick. Come back center and rest. So now you're going to take that left stick and place it right where you had your internal rotation mark. So now your sticks are set up and they're probably not going to be even at like 11 and 1 o'clock. They're probably going to be shifted slightly, and that's normal. We don't usually have the same amount of rotation in each leg. And besides that, as you go into external rotation, your foot has to clear your body as well. So that stick is probably going to be closer to the center of your body. So anyway, everyone's position of the sticks is going to be slightly different. We're holding those sticks at chest height. We're going to drive down into the floor. This is our last set. Keep that right leg nice and solid as you lift that left leg up. You can, of course, keep the same progression that we just did with the stick attached here. Let's go into our internal rotation first. Watch that thigh. Make sure it's rotating on its axis. Hold. You can also give some tension into that stick as well with the foot. Come back center. Let's go over to external rotation. You can adjust if you need to move the stick in a little closer or a little further away. Just make sure that the thigh is rotating on its axis. We'll do 2 more, staying nice and tall on that right leg. And slowly come back center. And switch to external, rotating that thigh right on its axis. Fight for that control. Come back center 1 more time. Imagine you've got that thumbs up on your thigh and you're turning that thumbs up in towards the center of your body. Come back center. And last one with external. Come back center and rest. All right. So this is typically how I build stick taps, or those internal external rotations. Those capsule cars are the simplest way of starting these explorations of the rotations of the hip. And then from there, we can really strengthen those internal and external rotations. We can do these stick taps or the hip capsule cars in any position of the hip. It doesn't have to be in front of you, right? We can do this with the leg to the side as well, right? Or even in extension. So keep that in mind. I hope you learned something with these movements today. If you have any questions about these movements, drop them in the comments below. And thank you so much, and I will see you next time.